I got to play the Nintendo Switch 2 for about 3 hours this past weekend. I went to New York to the Nintendo Switch 2 experience. It was an awesome time. I have a ton to talk about, a ton to tell you, so we're gonna jump right into this. I do wanna let you know this video is sponsored by Skull & Co. We're gonna talk about them in a little bit, but I wanna start out with just the Switch. We're gonna talk about a lot of the games that I played. I played about 8, 9 games. We're gonna make those separate videos. I have a lot to talk about the Switch 2 console itself. So in this video, we're gonna stick to just that. If you're watching this a little later, there'll probably be videos to the games that I played linked at the end, so check those out. But the first thing I wanna get into, I wanna tell you guys kind of how this went. When we got there, I got in a line and we were waiting to go inside. Once you're in there, they let you play Mario Kart first. But before you get to actually go on the other side of the rope and play Mario Kart, they put you in this room where you can basically just hold the Switch. It's not attached to anything. You can take the Joy-Cons off, you can mess with the kickstand. So that's where we'll start here. I do want to talk about the kickstand first. Now that was the first thing, as I was holding it there, I turned it around, pulled the kickstand out. I do think it's metal. Now, if it's not metal, this thing's probably gonna get broke a lot, like split in half. It's pretty thin. As far as being the little U shape across the bottom, it is pretty thin. It stays in place really nice. So, I mean, even with however many people had come through there and messed with all these kickstands before I had, it was still, staying where it needed to stay. It was nice and tight. It stayed exactly where you put it. So other than the fact that it's thin, and I do think it's made of metal. It could be plastic, but it felt metal to me. I asked one of the people standing there and they told me to just scan this QR code right here. Let me get that for you. To scan this QR code and it would take me to the product page and answer any questions I had, but that's not on the product page. But either way, the kickstand's something we're probably gonna have to look out for. I see this thing bending, breaking. I don't know, it's a little bit thin, but the second thing I noticed about the Switch 2 was probably the weight. Now, this obviously isn't a real Switch 2, this is a paper one from our sponsor, Skull & Co. It came in the new Neo Grip, which we're gonna talk about in a minute, but this is the size that the Switch 2 is. It's pretty heavy. Now, I have not gone back to the site and looked at how much it weighs compared to the original Switch, but that's the first thing I noticed when I picked it up. It definitely has some weight to it. But the weight distribution in the system is kind of strange because when you start to take the Joy-Con off, you realize all that weight is in the center. It's like the Joy-Cons are a lot bigger, but maybe they weigh the same as the old ones or something. I don't know. They're light for what they are. Compared to the rest of the system, the Joy-Cons are weirdly light. A lot of that weight is in the center, which you would expect, but it's not really balanced like the old Switch was. It's definitely all in the center. The Joy-Cons are light, but that doesn't mean they're bad. We're gonna talk about those in depth in a little bit. So they're pretty good. They do have some problems though. But the next thing I really looked at, obviously, were the Joy-Cons and how they come on and off with the magnets. I messed around with them a little bit. I pulled them on, pulled them off with the little button on the back. That's how you get them on and off. It comes on and off really easy. They go right into place. The magnets just suck them right into the side. They are very strong magnets. Now, I know the question everyone's gonna have is, can you take it off without hitting the button? The answer is yes, you can, but you really, really have to pull. These things are not gonna fall off. I know everyone's wondering if they're just gonna be, coming off all the time while you're playing. They're not. I had to pull really hard, and I actually have it on film. I'll have G put it up right here where I actually do pop it off. It took a lot of force to get that thing off there. These are not going to just come off when you're playing or anything like that. You're not gonna have to worry about that. Even with the button, there's still a little bit of resistance when you get it off there, but they do come off easy, they go on easy. The rail system is way, way better than what we had. The SL and SR buttons are big, those are metal. You can tell they're metal when you see them in person. There's like a layer of paint on them. Those will probably chip up. I feel like those are definitely gonna chip up. When you hold one, like you're using it as a controller, nobody does that. But if you do, way more comfortable. The Joy-Con's a lot longer, so it fits in your hands a lot better. One thing I did wonder, and I checked, and I don't know if I have the answer to this question as much as I want the answer to this question, because as I said, there were a lot of people that came in there before me. They were doing this on like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and Sunday were the days to the public, so there was a lot of people in there before I was. I was there on Saturday at about 1:45. I wanted to see if the Joy-Cons had the little bit of wiggle like the Switch 1 does, and they did, but it wasn't that much. And also, like I said, I know there were a lot of people handling it, probably doing that to check It's probably gotten a little looser over, you know, the days of people doing that, but it's much more solid than it used to be. With just the old rail system, having that deep little pocket where the piece of the Joy-Con goes inside, it's much more sturdy. It did wiggle a little bit, but I'm not gonna dock them points for that yet until I see it in person when I get my own out of the box fresh, because lots of people touching it. So the next thing I do want to talk about are the buttons on the Joy-Cons. They feel a little bit different than the ones on the original Switch. They're not as clicky. The Switch 1 Joy-Con buttons were really clicky. These still are a little bit, but not quite as much, and obviously they are bigger. Overall, holding it handheld, it's much more comfortable. It's still just a flat Nintendo Switch, so it could be more comfortable, but holding it and being that size, it's a lot better than the original Switch. But that does give me a good segue to talk about the sponsor of today's video, which is Skull & Co. They are rebranding a little bit. They are now going by the name Savage Raven. So as you see here, I have what was my favorite grip for the Switch 1. This is the Neo grip, but this is for the Switch 2. They've got a few upgrades on here, but essentially it does the same thing for your Switch 2 it did for your Switch 1. It gives you a ton more to hang on to, as you can see here. It's got a clip on the back that holds the Switch in, and now it's even got a brand new lock. The Switch 1 didn't have that. You can get these in all different sizes. These things are available for pre-order right now. As I said, this was my favorite grip for the Switch 1. It's probably what I'm gonna be using for the Switch 2. They've also got thumb grips ready for the Switch 2, and their D-pad sets for the Switch 2. All this is available for pre-order on their website. There's a link below where you can get a discount with my code. But that's not all. We're gonna check back in with some more stuff from Savage Raven later in the video, something brand new you haven't seen yet, also available for pre-order on their site. Links down below for that. So the next thing I want to talk about, still in handheld mode here, are the sticks. Now, I did see this morning as I'm waking up to start filming this video, they're not Hall Effect sticks, and unfortunately, I know a lot of people were hoping that they were going to be bigger, have a little bit more travel, more like a traditional joystick. They're about the same. They feel really same. They're very same, but they're also very different. They feel really similar to the Switch 1 sticks. The tops are bigger, yes, but they're still pretty low profile, so you don't get a ton of travel. They're fine. I mean, them not being Hall Effect, that does concern me. I don't know why they would not put Hall Effect sticks in this thing after all the problems they had. They're comfortable sticks. They're bigger than the old ones, so there's that, but they're still really low profile, so if you're hoping for bigger sticks, something more like a controller or Steam Deck or something, we're not getting that here, unfortunately, but I'm sure there's gonna be lots of third-party Joy-Cons, and obviously we'll cover those on this channel as well. You know, we've done everything from MobaPad, all the other stuff. We're gonna do it all for the Switch 2 as well, so if you're not subscribed and you wanna see that stuff, make sure you get subscribed. But I wanna move over into the next room that we went to. In there is where I finally got to play Mario Kart. Again, I'm gonna have a full video on Mario Kart, but I got to play it in TV mode. And in this room, they weren't giving us Pro controllers. We had the Joy-Con grip with the Joy-Cons in it, and I have to say, this Joy-Con grip is much more comfortable than the last one. It's kind of flat on the front, obviously, so you can get the two Joy-Cons in there, but it also has the buttons on the back. It's got programmable buttons on the back of the Joy-Con grip, and it is a pass-through charging, so you can charge the Joy-Cons while you're playing. That's another thing that the old Switch didn't have, but yeah, you can program the buttons on the back of this thing. I didn't get to mess around with that function at all, and they weren't set to anything, but I could feel them back there. But this was definitely a more comfortable experience than the old Joy-Con grip. Not a whole lot more to say about it. It's transparent, it does look cool. But then they had us switch to handheld mode. We had a TV there, but each of us had a little Switch that we could pick up and play. These ones were chained, so I don't really get to tell you the full experience of handheld play because it had a giant chain on the back of it. Holding it while it was off in the previous room, I can tell you, it's probably gonna be pretty comfortable. A little more heavy, but not bad. With the chain on it, it was quite heavy. But this is where I got to see the 1080p screen for the first time, and I know a lot of people are very worried because it's LCD. This screen looks fantastic. It looks, yes, maybe not the deep blacks of an OLED, but this is a nice LCD panel. It's not what we had with the Switch 1, so don't worry about that. If you're worried about this thing looking like the Switch 1, the original LCD panel, and that looked, it does not. It looks really good. The 1080p, I mean, Mario Kart looked amazing. It looked really good. Obviously played very smooth. The first party games, you know, they're gonna play great. That's the only one I got to play in handheld, but the screen itself, 7.9 inches, plenty big enough. 1080p, looks amazing. With the HDR and everything else they've got going on in there, this screen's plenty. I would imagine we're probably gonna get an OLED screen in the next iteration of this. It's probably gonna be the Switch 2 Pro or something like that, which is fine. But we are gonna be okay with the LCD screen. Don't worry about that if that's something you were really concerned about. One thing I wondered while I was playing, they have the buttons on the Joy-Con grips. Why not put them on the actual Joy-Con so you can use them in handheld mode too? They don't have them on the back. The backs of the Joy-Cons don't have anything on them, but they do have them on the Pro controller. And I want to talk about that because once we left that room, we got to go upstairs and play the knockout version of Mario Kart. That mode in Mario Kart is amazing. Again, we'll talk about that again later. That mode is absolutely amazing. It was a lot of fun, but I did get to use an actual Pro controller too. Let me tell you something. I don't know what's going on with the sticks in this controller, but they are the smoothest feeling sticks I have ever felt in my life. It's like they've done something, like there's like magnets holding you from touching the edge. If you look underneath, the little stick that holds up the top is really thin. So I don't think it actually touches the edges. You don't get that plastic on plastic feeling. And even with something like this where it has metal and plastic, much smoother, this is well beyond that. It almost felt like it had two magnets fighting against each other, like you couldn't get to the end. It was really strange. But not only that, and I probably should have talked about this with the Joy-Cons as well, but the HD Rumble 2, or whatever it's called, is significantly better. The original HD Rumble was really good. I think this actually might be more intuitive, maybe not better, because the PlayStation Rumble, their haptic feedbacks are really intense. I noticed with the Switch 2, especially in the Joy-Cons, they're very subtle, but they're not crazy in your face. Sometimes they can be, but I really enjoyed the Rumble. It's hard to explain, but you could feel it a lot better in the Pro controller, so that was really good. The Pro controller itself is a soft touch material, so if you've had any replacement shells, a lot of the replacement shells for the Joy-Cons and the Pro controller for the original Switch had that soft touch. This has that as well around the bottom where you're holding it, so it does give you that little bit of a rubber feeling. The Pro controller too is extremely comfortable to use. The sticks are amazing. It has the back buttons. I said this was probably gonna be something that I bought, did a video on and returned, but now this is probably going to be the controller I use going forward. I don't know what's going on with those sticks, but it's worth buying one just to experience that, because I have never ever felt a stick quite like that in a controller before. Now, I want to talk about mouse mode. I'm sure that's something you guys really want to hear about, but I do have to tell you about this new case from Savage Raven. This is the one that they did not have out previously. Of course, we know about the Neo Grip. This is the protective case for the Switch 2. It's got a plastic, crush-proof front cover. This thing is super nice. You take the front cover off like this, and then your Switch is just right in here. This is made of a flexible material. We can put our fake Switch in here to see what it looks like. Boom, looks something like that. As you can see here, it's got a ton to hold on to on the back. It's gonna make taking your Switch out and playing it in handheld mode much more comfortable, lots more to grab on there, and it's a stand as well. 75-degree stand, it will stand up by itself. This is also on pre-order. Something else you might want to get to protect that new 1080p screen are these easy install tempered glass screen protectors. You get 2 of them in the case, so you know, if you got 2 Switches somehow, you're gonna be able to have both of them protected with just this one pack. Again, all this stuff is linked down below on their website. All available for pre-order. There's a code down there where you can get 10% off. It is Drip Media. I'll also put that in the pinned comment. But thank you again to Savage Raven for sponsoring this video. Links in the description. All right, now we have to talk about mouse mode. There are some very big highlights for me from mouse mode. One of them was Metroid Prime 4. I did get to play Metroid Prime 4 in mouse mode at 120 frames per second, and that was probably my favorite experience of the entire day by a long shot. I played that, Cyberpunk, Hogwarts Legacy, Mario Kart, Donkey Kong, and I played the wheelchair basketball game, which I'm going to talk about here in a second. There was something else I played. I can't remember what it was. Civilization 7. Not my kind of game. I just wanted to try out the mouse mode. Anyway, the mouse mode in that, Civilization 7, was fine. It's basically like using a mouse on a computer. Metroid Prime 4 in mouse mode is like the coolest thing that I have played. If you are somebody who plays PC games, you're very familiar with all this stuff. But I will say the mouse mode for that game specifically, it was perfect. It was so responsive. You could flip around and look anywhere you wanted to look super fast. There was no delay whatsoever. Aiming was awesome. It was really, really well done. The mouse mode for that game, I was blown away by that. And then, like I said, Civilization 7, I played that. It's, you know, kind of point and click. It works as a mouse. It's not uncomfortable. Holding a Joy-Con as a mouse is not nearly as awkward as I thought it might be. Savage Raven is making Joy-Con mouse style holder as well. So huge thank you to them. They're the ones that made this video possible. Make sure you guys do check them out. That's coming to the website soon. But the Joy-Con by itself, not that bad to use as a mouse. Now, I did play the wheelchair basketball game, and I cannot remember the name of it. Scoot Drives. I don't remember the name of it right now. I'm sure G will put it on screen right here. Now, that game was a little bit different. Now, we sat down, and we had to kind of go through a little bit of a tutorial on pushing the mouse and, you know, how to turn and how to shoot. And they really wanted you to take long, smooth strides. But when you're playing that game and everything's going on, and you're trying to turn and do this, it's very hard to just make long, smooth strides. So it was probably user error a lot, but they were not nearly as accurate in a setting like that. I'm sure with a little bit of practice, I could probably get better and probably use them a little better, but they weren't the greatest when it comes to that. It was a fun experience, and I'm interested to see what else they do with the mouse mode. But for me, that one, I didn't really enjoy that all that much. But I think as far as the Switch 2 itself, I think that's it. If you guys have any questions about anything I didn't talk about in this video, leave them in the comments. I will respond. Also, there's a link in the description to our Discord. We're in there talking about all this stuff probably right now. So get in there, ask some questions, talk to some people. Everybody's in there really friendly. It's a good time. There should be some videos up here about the games I played while I was in New York. So click on one of those. Check that out, but that's gonna do it for this one, guys. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. Please leave a like. Make sure you're subscribed. We'll see you in the next one.